All right, turning to Capitol Hill, where the future of President Trump's so-called and so-labeled big, beautiful bill is now in the hands of senators. The budget bill narrowly passed the House last month. Senators need to hurry because they are facing a self-imposed deadline to get the bill to the president's desk. The president says get it here by July 4th for the holiday. Some symbolism hoped for here. The GOP budget plan cuts spending in Medicaid, food stamps, and energy subsidies, and increases spending on defense and immigration enforcement. Those are two hallmarks of Trump's second-term agenda. So covering all of this is CBS News congressional reporter Taurean Small. Taurean, take us through the fight against some of the parts of this bill. Even Republicans are a little squeamish about some parts.
Yeah, and Reed, like you laid out, the biggest fight arguably is with the clock at this point. July 4th is a date that House Speaker took the lead on, saying that he believes is sufficient enough for Republicans to push it out of the Senate chamber and to the president's desk. That leaves us with very few weeks on this side to really talk about any changes that happen. And then if they're significant enough, they would have to see a conference between both chambers before it's ultimately sent to the president's desk. But Republicans, quite a few have been quite vocal, like Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, coming out saying that the spending in this bill is just unsustainable. Rand Paul actually told us this morning that the $5 trillion debt limit increase is hopefully unsustainable, and says that he just could not in good conscience go forward with that type of stamp of approval on this bill. We're also hearing concerns about cuts to Medicaid, and there's quite a few Republicans, on top of getting the pushback from their constituents, just aren't willing to sign off on that type of change just yet.
Yeah, they have to go back and talk to the voters who send them to Washington in the first place, and a lot of them are sounding off about Medicaid. Let's get a little more granular here. Even the president has said we're not touching Medicaid, but they are planning to touch Medicaid. What are the points there?
Well, this is the argument that Democrats have been making, right? The largest pot that Republicans can feasibly pull from in order to use as pay-fors for this massive price tag on this bill would have to come from these safety net programs. We saw what passed out of the House, about $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. In that would include increased work requirements, volunteer work, or proof of education in order to justify why folks could qualify for that. There's also other requirements like enhanced screening to prove eligibility. This is a provision, though, that is sparking some controversy among Republicans here. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri came out today and said that as it stands, he can't support what is in line in this bill, a moratorium on a provider tax as it stands. To make a long story short with that is essentially where the state can pull funding from providers to help offset the state's share of funding for this. Senator Hawley is arguing that that could have a potential impact, a negative impact on rural hospitals, which is why he would like to see changes to that provision in order for him to sign on for this bill.
Well, and the president also made a lot of campaign promises relative to immigration's enforcement. He needs a very big check from Congress, greenlit by the American people, to pay for that. Talk to us about the increased spending for immigration's enforcement and where lawmakers are on that point.
Yeah, a lot of red meat in this, including more funding to go to increasing the number of immigration jails or holding facilities. I think what Democrats are targeting in, though, is the increase to asylum seekers, how much they'll be paying in order to seek asylum. It's about $1,000 just to fill out the application to seek asylum in this country, not necessarily to be approved for their asylum claims. And then there's also a $3,500 to reunite families that have been separated at the border. Democrats are saying this is essentially a tax on poor people seeking asylum in the United States, and they're saying it's hopefully unfair for folks who have a legitimate claim to migrate to the United States.
All right, and a ticking clock at that. They would like to see July 4th be the day the president signs this so-called, so-labeled big, beautiful bill into law. We'll see if they can get it done. Taurean Small, we know you have a pencil and you're taking notes to history. Good to see you, friend.